Hello and welcome. My name is Carsten Lützen. I'm a professional facilitator and agile coach. Today I will talk about the 5 whys. The 5 whys was invented in the 1930s and has developed and evolved from there, but originally in the 1930s developed by Sakichi Toyoda, best of my knowledge at least, and later popularized by different people and also Eric Rice in the Lean Startup. So the idea behind the 5 whys is to find root causes in complicated systems. And 5, it's not a magic number. It can be 3 whys, it can be 6 whys, it can be 7 whys. The important thing is that we need to stop on something that we can actually change, not before. So when we have the root cause. And what I really like about this is not about people. So we assess the process. Human error is never the root cause here. And we'll look at that in a second. And each run of this gives a chain, and we might need to run it again. It might be a fishbone, so it might span out, break out into more chains. So maybe take turns running it with and writing down and see where it ends. So, and of course, use it where it makes sense. I'll get back to that in a second. So one really good example, at least if you ask me. So the build never reached production. That is our problem statement. This is where we start. We need to start on a problem statement everybody agrees upon. Here, our build never reached production. Then we ask, why? Why didn't it reach production? It didn't reach production because the pipeline stopped at the test gate. Why did the pipeline stop at the test gate? Why did the pipeline stop at the test gate? The pipeline stopped at the test gate because 3 front-end tests failed. Why did 3 front-end tests fail? Oh, that was a blank one. The test harness loaded was the wrong data. So that was why number 3. Why was the harness loaded? Why did that have the wrong data? Because it had the stale fixture. It had the stale fixtures committed. Okay. Interesting. So why did we have the stale fixtures committed? Because a machine had no commit hook defined. So we could end here, right? Because this seems like a reasonable chain. Oh. So this seems like a reasonable chain. We can do the therefore test. So a machine had no commit hook defined. Therefore, stale fixtures were committed. Therefore, the test harness loaded the wrong data. Therefore, 3 front-end tests failed. Therefore, the pipeline stopped at the test gate. Therefore, so this actually holds. But this is not. This is a system. Sorry. This is a machine error. This is not a process error. And as I said, right, we assess the process. So what is the process here? A lot of people would stop here and think this is the root cause, but this is not the root cause. We actually we need to ask one more why. So why did the machine had no commit hooks? Because the hook setup was manual and never verified. This is something in the process, right? This is something that we could fix and we should fix. And this also shows to this one, use it where it makes sense. This one works, as I said, on complicated problems. This won't help you with psychological safety and stuff like that, which is complex problems, if we use Kinevin terminology, right? So the 5 whys is incredibly powerful for things like this, where you can build a chain. And we can also see here, the test harness loaded was the wrong data. There is even an implied fork here that might end in another chain. But this is super powerful. And I can really recommend you to use it for things like this, but not complex problems. So I'm curious, do you use 5 whys or the liberating structure equivalent of it? Then please share in a comment. That would be awesome. And if you have feedback to these videos, again, please leave a comment or send a message. That would be awesome. And that's it. Have a super awesome day.